Well, good morning, class. And it's Sunday morning, the 1st of July, around between 10:20 and 10:30 in the morning. And I know you guys are getting ready for your 4th of July holiday. And then we got a week off from the 3rd to the 9th. So I thought before we get into that second week, I kind of give you and I'll do it again. I kind of did it in a brief way, but I want to give you the layout of how the course pans out. And a couple of you have reached out to me and asked me, uh, like you're a little confused about your literature review and all of that. But I think it's important to kind of map out the macro picture of what we're trying to accomplish here. For one thing, this course is not intended to prepare you to be a research scientist, okay? Nor is it intended to prepare you to be a statistician. The whole point is to understand the methodologies of research and coming up with different methods in which to conduct that research. Now, the whole point of what we're doing is to identify a problem somewhere, someplace, whether it be in your personal or professional life, preferably in your professional life, so you can apply the tools to whatever you need in your job that might be helpful down the road when it comes to research. But the whole point of doing this is to identify a problem. That's number one. Or find out how you can make something better that already exists. Then what you do is you develop a hypothesis. Well, what is a hypothesis? A hypothesis, hypothesis, yeah, okay. A hypothesis is essentially an if-then statement, so to speak. It's what we think will happen as a result of our research before we actually do the research. Okay? So say, for example, you have a problem. You can't identify whether or not you should add 2 more people to your production line. Okay? Hypothetically. Well, you got to research to justify the levels of overhead and see if the end result is going to be an increase in productivity profitability rather. So the first thing you do is say, okay, my problem is I can't meet my customers' demand well enough as I'd like to, and I want to research different ways that I can increase my productivity to meet their demands. However, I might have to add an extra level of overhead, like 1 or 2 people, units of production, right? So the hypothesis is going to be, if I add 1 or 2 people to my production line, then I will be able to meet the demands of my customers in a timely fashion, putting that on a time value line. Now, the thing is, you want to set up 4 or 5 goals that are going to support that hypothesis. For example, goal number 1 might be how much adding 2 levels or 2 units of production to my line will increase my productivity. So the goal is to research that. That's the first goal. The second goal would be maybe to identify what type of skill sets I need and making the line more efficient than what it is. The third thing is to research how much profitability will I gain and how much more business can this draw in, and how will I maintain my present client base without losing some of those clients to the competitors. I think you get the point. So the thing is, when I talk about conducting a literature review, I'm basically looking at the resources that you're going to need to support your goals. So that would be what type of research, where would I look? Well, you might, for understanding where you're going to get your information on your job skills or your labor market, you might want to look at the Department of Labor and Statistics, for example. Or you might take a look at your hiring practices and what type of people you already hire for these types of jobs and look at their job descriptions. So I think you get the point, and your sources can come from all different places. So when I ask you for a literature review, I'm basically looking at kind of where you might get your information. And when you actually start researching your goals and doing your research, then the literature review blows up. It gets bigger because one thing leads to another. You find one resource, and then that resource will say to you, for further study, you're going to go here. So now you get another avenue of resource. So that's kind of what I'm looking for preliminarily with the literature review that you can expound on. Now, remember when I said each goal turns into a separate section of your paper? Well, what happens is within each goal, you're going to have, like for example, looking at your labor market, you're going to have your literature review, and you're going to be interviewing people. You're going to be developing a research instrument. Now, you could do ordinal or nominal research, and we're going to be looking at that as the term progresses. But housed in each one of your goals is going to be your literature review or a component of that review, and supporting that goal along with the information you gather from your research instrument, which is more than likely going to be a questionnaire, people that are out there, surveys and stuff like that. Then what you do, after you do all of that, okay, you got all your sections done, you take one takeaway, the highlight of each section of what you found out, and you write your summary. You then compare your summary to your hypotheses, and that becomes your conclusion. Okay, so did you prove your hypothesis is what you thought when you first started your research, what you ended up with? Or is it something different? We call that a null hypothesis. And if it's something different, why was it different? What did you learn from doing the research? And then you have your research, all of your research sources at the end. That's kind of a macro picture of where we're going from week to week. So, I gave you guys my cell, which means you can text me. You don't have to wait for snail mail to get in touch with me. Or you can give me a call and leave a message. All right? It's a fully online course, so you got to do all the readings and everything. I mean, that's something I can't do for you, but I can help you with the assignments. All right, if links are broken and things like that, I can fix that too. But you got to reach out and don't let it go too long. I'm pretty lenient with getting assignments in as long as it's not ridiculous. But it's really a lot of self-discipline with an online course. But I'm here to help you any way I can. And like I said, this course is to help you to learn how to properly conduct research and different methods you can use to do that. That's all. So have a great 4th of July weekend, and if you need to reach out, reach out. If not, enjoy from the 3rd to the 9th, and then we'll get back into week 2 when you get back. Don't worry about looking ahead at the material. Just don't do the assignments. It's too early. Okay, that's going forward, not for this first week. Have a wonderful holiday and a safe one. Professor Pacheco.